learning just doesn't stop with books.
Country like India where, you are just like a horse with blinders. So you are, all the time told to focus on studies, through your 10th, 12th and then graduation, and then suddenly you realize there is no scope.
Entrepreneurship is deciding your own destiny, in my opinion. You have to be in control of your destiny.
Students have choice to change their preference. Element of study and learning cannot be ruled out. People who are business ready are actually more job ready now.
The student might be passionate about entrepreneurship, but the parents might be a little finicky, right?
Counseling and mentoring is crucial here. Once teacher tell them, I think they're fairly more confident. If student is supposed to tell them, difficult.
Teachers and professors are the next round of external validation.
People from outside of a business family would find it extremely difficult to get started there. Knowledge was just absolutely useless when I came into real life. In an entrepreneur journey, failure is critically important to succeed. If you don't execute your plans, it just turns out to be just all wishful thinking and it's just a waste of time.
You need expertise in the technical stuff and on the hardcore abilities, but you need someone who is courageous enough. If students have to take risk, even teachers have to take bit of risk. Even parents also have to take bit of risk. I think that's where the concept of ecosystem is important. Most of the campuses have these capabilities to understand and also appreciate and also tackle it separately. It's not just the sincerity, hard work and the marks that is the criteria.
They should be diligent misfits.
If you're just doing what is told, then it's going to be troublesome.
Not exploring, you will be kicked out after some time. So why companies prefer people who've done entrepreneurship is because we need a lot of entrepreneurs within the company. People who are generally enterprising and who want to try out new things. Generally, they don't get along with people. One of the main reasons I've seen is that I don't think it's just me. All of you would have seen the top 5 to 10% rankers, right? They never manage to go beyond that after they enter corporate life.
If you're able to take ownership, then you are in a way an entrepreneur within an organization.
So when somebody is in college, right, let's say he has an education loan. All talking about entrepreneurship is all good and nice and cool and all of that. He has an education loan that, from the day he passes out, he has to repay. And the parents, let's say, for example, the parents are dependent on him financially. They've put all their efforts in getting this kid out of college.
In the West, once you're 18, you become responsible. They ask you to leave the house. As parents, that's a culture we need to inculcate in the kids.
Balancing vision and patience. One should not even aspire to do that. It's too demanding.
So you are starting to think about the 30th of the month from the 20th of the month.
One of the biggest things that a youngster needs to understand is, first thing is you need to cut that umbilical cord thinking that your children are going to take care of you. As an individual, we can't do it.
When you start, you are your most prized asset. Any unicorn founder or any entrepreneur or any billionaire for that matter never got there by saving.
Balance. Whatever you do, live life, like you rightly said, be happy, but try and balance.
The importance of savings and to what extent one should save. Intentionally, unintentionally, teacher can either encourage or discourage something.
Nobody who does not have money should say that, money is not important. I believe, only financially independent people should, even talk about money. Others are not qualified to talk about money.
Failure's big part of any journey. You don't need lakhs or crores or millions of dollars to start a business.
Entrepreneurship is a lot of failures with a few big wins in between.
Correct.
And those big wins usually tend to pay up for all your failures.
You cannot really succeed in being an entrepreneur.
In this concept of becoming humble and accepting feedback from everybody, right? Everybody starts giving their own version of whatever they've done. And I am a firm believer that you take advice from people who live the life you want to live. Everybody are old, nobody is experienced. Just
advice is free.
People of my generation are very, very resistant to feedback.
Resilience and, staying, not giving up, as much as it is glorified, how would you say what is being resilient versus what is being obnoxious or, stupid?
What real world problem does it solve? End of the day, it will not see light and it will be a failure.
You have a vision, you define it.
So once you have that value creation framework in mind and you know whether something adds value or doesn't add value, your network and your customer is not going to wait forever. If it is only dream after dream, dream after dream, vision after vision, difficult to trust.
Industry focused projects mean they have a real tangible value. I believe all the money you want is in somebody else's pocket today.
Most important thing I think is to build a good network around them. Find skill sets that you're not good at. Instead of wasting time to learn everything, find people with that skill.
As you embark on any journey, you must love what you do.
Mentors are like Google Maps for you.
I might say yes, I might say no. Nothing wrong in trying.
Best gurus will find the best sishyas.
The moment somebody says save money, I cannot align to any of their thoughts.
They need to value you as a mentor.
Mentor starts to judge you, then it becomes a problem.
A lot of mentors, they want to achieve their dreams through you. They want you to be a smaller version of them.
For the bigger picture, you need someone who has seen, who has been there, done that, but that needs to be validated a bit.
I totally get it, because if somebody has not made it, they are not. They should not be advising in the first place. People, આજકાલ, they fall in love with the product and forget that there is a business behind the product.
And business is all about partnerships. Be it vendor, be it customer, be it employee, industry, you'll have to trust somebody. Decide the best one for you.
Who is there to question your prerogative?
A vision of 1,000 people cannot come by, just searching for people everywhere.
Hey, hi, all of you. Welcome again for another episode of Titans Talk. So today, we've been covering a lot of topics this season around jobs and, how we can, kind of improve the quality of jobs and the quality of people that are getting into jobs. Today, we wanted to kind of touch upon entrepreneurship as a career option, because, if you look at it, India has 1 crore people passing out every year, with about the major white collar employer being employing about 6 lakh people. So when you see that, so jobs is not the only solution for all the freshers. So entrepreneurship is a way of life and should be something as a real career option that should be explored by all of you guys. So that is why we wanted to, have a couple of entrepreneurs with us today who will kind of share the experience of how to start entrepreneurship, what is the best way in which we can start, so that, the chances of failure is lesser and the chances of success is higher. So today we have Richard and Anand with us. So if you guys can briefly introduce you about yourself, it'll be great.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Richard. And I have a quote that I'd like to share that, everybody shines given the right lighting. And, my first job, I was 13 years old. I was actually cleaning tables in a hotel in Chennai called Buhari's. And if somebody told me that a 13-year-old would go on to reach some fairly decent level as an entrepreneur in life, I would have said, you're mad. But I think my journey has been fantastic with a lot of help with mentors. I've had businesses across education, healthcare, distribution, entertainment. And now I'm focusing a lot on the sustainable sector. So that's a brief about me.
Wow, that's nice to hear you. I'm Anand Bhargava. Basically, the irony is I am in the healthcare segment right now, but I qualified as an engineer. Okay, and once after I qualified as an engineer, I reaccredited myself in the nutrition space. So at a later age in my life, I had to again study and do all the stuff that people are doing now as students, and to get myself into that space. But just to give you a background, I come from typically, a family where nobody has done a business or any of that kind. All of them were working. My parents both happen to be doctors working in the government. So I'm a first generation entrepreneur. That's the way I would put it. And obviously, when it comes to a first generation entrepreneur, there are challenges that come in the way. And most people around you think that, what is it that you're doing? And so I started my career basically working in a couple of corporate jobs. I worked with, my last stint was with Unilever in the tea industry. I worked with them for about 7 years. And then the entrepreneur bug was always there within me, saying that I have to do something on my own. And I just got out and said goodbye to my career when I was at a peak in my career, and got into a business that I had no idea at all. Okay, I started with cable television. I had no idea whatsoever. And that's the lucky part of it, is that I met my wife, who became my wife later, through the industry. And then I diversified into technology and telecommunications. There I had a business in landline telephones and other things way back in the late 90s, I would say. And then subsequently, that's when I dabbled into healthcare and moved into nutrition and wellness. And thereafter, for about a couple of decades, we were running healthcare in basically the analog fashion, of what we would say, where you work in person, because that's where healthcare was. And then post-COVID, we have floated a brand new company, a health tech startup called ThinkFit Solutions Private Limited, wherein we have moved everything what we used to do on the analog fashion to the digital space now. So where our reach is much better, and I am able to connect with people around the globe now. And that's where it is right now. And I think it's in a great space to be in now.
Fantastic.
Great. You should also tell how old you are, so that people be like, okay.
Well, if you want to really know that, Gautam, I just will be turning 61 in the February of 2025. Wow. I'm 60 now, almost turning 61. But then I think it's, age is just a number. And I think it's all about what your inside that makes the difference. And I think I'm by biological age, I am close to somewhere around, close to the late 35s and 40s. I'm in biological age if you look at it, but then chronologically, I'm 60.
Wow.
Okay.
That's what I
Needs
wanted.
verification.
No, no,
Difficult to
I
believe.
know his age. That's why I wanted him
That's
to tell that.
fantastic. I pegged you to be around 50.
Okay.
Amazing.
So my name is Amol Randive. I am currently leading career advancement office with group Vishwakarma University in Pune. At Vishwakarma, we have multiple campuses, including 4 decades old Vishwakarma Institute of Technology and Vishwakarma University is founded in 2017. I started my career in sales, field sales with Eureka Forbes. I was there for 2 years, then moved to higher education after my master's, that's MBA. And I was teaching for about 7 years, then joined a startup. I was there for 2 years in core team of a startup. So that's where a bit of entrepreneurship understanding is there. And since 17, I'm into career advancement role. So in this role now, we support students in their career journeys, including job, higher studies, and entrepreneurship or business. Uh, I'm involved in entrepreneurship related activities since 2011. I was a faculty lead on our campus and trained by National Entrepreneurship Network, and also part of the Thai community and a couple of other entrepreneur forums in Pune and also nationally part of ASOCHAM. Happy to be here. Looking forward to good conversation today.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Amol.
Great, great. So I wanted to, kind of start off from education. So, because this is going to be primarily our audience are going to be young professionals or
Sure.
students. So that being said, right, I wanted your nuggets on how they can, kind of transition towards entrepreneurship. So when moving from education to entrepreneurship, right, Richard, what do you think are the major struggles that they should overcome and what are the key things that they should be looking at?
I think see the key factor here is that learning is very very important, and I think like I said, my first job I was 13 years old, but one thing I realized is that I need to study. I need to make sure that I get an education. But like Anand and I were discussing, learning just doesn't stop with books, because a lot that you learn has to be out in your outside circle, not just in a college or a school. I always tell my kids that I give them the story of Slumdog Millionaire, right? The guy went on to, get that whatever 1 crore, whatever it was in the movie. But all his answers were based on real life experiences, and I think
Yes.
that is something that as students we have to absorb. Your real life experiences. If you're able to imbibe that and then execute it practically, that's how you will transition from being a student, and you'll start thinking out of the box to get creative and to be able to get entrepreneurial. I think that's something I'd like to share.
So one more follow-up question on that, Richard. So help me understand, in a country like India, where you are just like a horse with blinders. So you are, all the time told to focus on studies, through your 10th, 12th, and then graduation, and then suddenly you realize there is no scope for uh, outside experience at all. In that case, right? So how do you think? What kind of experiences should they gather, and how do you think that experience would kind of.
I'll answer that a little differently. I think the concept of entrepreneurship in India is very different, because in the West, the maids, the butlers all consider themselves entrepreneurs because they are in control of their career. In India, we think entrepreneurs, you need to have a lot of money, start a big business, hire 100 people, oh my God. So
Have an
that gets very
office.
overwhelming right up in the beginning. Entrepreneurship is deciding your own destiny, in my opinion, where you can be your own boss. You could do something small. You go outside this studio, you walk on the road, you see a little guy selling fruits on the road. He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He goes in the morning, he buys from somewhere, and he comes and sells. So entrepreneurship does not necessarily mean, starting this big large company and having 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 employees. You have to be in control of your destiny. So if you discover a certain skill set that you have, you can really make that work for you.
Can you share your personal experience of how did you, what kind of skill set did you discover, and how did you go about that?
So that's, yeah, I mean, I could share that. That's like the yes and no dilemma, right? So I'll share a little anecdote as well, because for me, you know, you have a certain group of people who will encourage you and say yes. And then there's a certain group of people, when you want to start something, they'll say no. One of my early businesses, I wanted to do, I must have been whatever, 16 or 17 years old. I wanted to buy and sell shoes. So I found this gentleman from Nepal who would bring these shoes. I'm assuming they were all fake. Those days I thought it was all real, and I would get it from him, and everybody said, fantastic, Richard, great idea. So I went and somehow got a little bit of money from here, there, everywhere, and invested it. And the guy took my money and he disappeared. So that was my venture, that because everybody said yes, yes, yes. I'll give you another example of when people say no, but you as an entrepreneur decide to do it. About maybe 10, 12 years ago, we were all sitting in a conference room, and one of my friends, Manish, came and said he wanted to start a shirt business. He's from the textile industry. And so we said, are you crazy? Why would you want to do that? You've got Arrow, Van Heusen, Peter England, such big brands. Why would you want to start a shirt company above all? And that was the name, Rare Rabbit. What a name, for a shirt brand. And today, the valuation of that company is 3,000 plus crores. Everybody said no, but he followed his heart and went and said do. So I gave you two examples. There are people who will say yes, 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 and then the business may fail. And then there are people who will say no, no, no. But like I said before, it's ultimately about what you want to do, your skill set. You discover what. And for me, I believed in selling something that can add value to people's life. At that point, like I said, when I started, I believed that there were no big Nike and Adidas brands that, it was all in the West. India didn't have much of those. So I thought that was an opportunity. At 17, I believed that was an opportunity. So whenever there's an opportunity, and you think that it can add value to people, you must go ahead.
Got it, got it. So, Amol, coming to you, right? How does academia, especially Vishwakarma, prepare students for entrepreneurship? What are the things that you do so that the culture of entrepreneurship is fostered in the student?
I think Gautam, there are a lot of answers to this. But having said this, I must admit on academia front, there's a lot more that needs to be done. Most of the campuses, including ours, have entrepreneurship cells. We conduct activities. Those inspirational talks are there, activities are there. There's a competition which is like national level called Vishwapreneur, wherein we invite people from outside as well. There are investors. There are two new things that we have started which are giving us good results in the recent past, primarily on the university campus, wherein we have, along with engineers, management students, law, design, social sciences, music, so media and communications. And in these programs, entrepreneurial activities is much more, as Richard rightly said, people starting up, not in the tech space, but based on their own skill set and something that you're really good and passionate at. So first one is batch profiling. So what we're doing now is right from the first year, we try and look at career aspiration of a candidate. Is that student interested in job, business, or higher studies? And we ask this question every year until final year, and students have choice to change their preference. We don't lock it at any point in time, including in the final year. So what it does is we kind of introduce them to all three options and possibilities. And as you rightly said, that element of study and learning cannot be ruled out. It can't be just business or study. Business or job. And we also see a lot of overlaps now. We talk about entrepreneurial qualities required in job. In fact, I believe I'm in placement role for last 7 years now. People who are business ready are actually more job ready now,
Uh-huh.
right? That's the whole thing. And companies are okay with bit of attrition. That was not the case in the past. So one is this batch profiling that is helping us. And in the process, we also look at parent expectations. So what we ask them is not just their aspirations. We also ask them about expectations of the parent or guardian who is investing money. That's important for university.
100%.
We're answerable for that. And third one is the element of peer pressure through conversation. Like people saying yes and no. Somebody does something and person decides to quit. Student is on a project, and I'm sure we would have seen enough examples that someone is about to start something, and is forced to close because of the peer pressure. That can never be rolled out, and that happens through bit of mentoring and informal conversations. And the second one is deferred placement. So for those who are willing to take up projects, one is there is provision that they can do internship in their own firm. We don't need certification from outside for all the internships. If it is worth it, we consider it. So they get 6 months, 11 months to work on it. And the second one is if they need more time, up to 2 years, they can come back and join campus placement.
Okay.
If at all it fails, wishes it shouldn't. That's because these we believe are real interventions beyond activities per se. And as I said, looking forward to I think more ideas in the process.
Fantastic. So one more question here, Amol.
Right.
So as in, when the student might be passionate about entrepreneurship, but the parents might be a little finicky, right? So how do you tackle that, and or have parents changed a bit?
Well, in fact, there are four things that we look at apart from these two when I look at career as a whole. And that's where you said, right? So one is the job market, other one is business. For us, higher studies is also there in the picture with UG. About 30% of students on our campus aspire to go abroad for higher studies, for masters. So we look at all these three in parallel: student aspiration, parent expectations, and market scenario. And the counseling and mentoring is crucial here, because no student is going to come and share his or her point of view right away unless they find the element of trust.
Correct.
And especially with the entrepreneurial talent crowd, people who are preparing for job market and are adequately sincere enough reasonably share data. But anybody who is doing out of the box, is doing something part time, is involved in other activities beyond studies, would tend to hide for obvious reasons. Well, that's how schooling typically happens. So we need those channels, and we create those channels through teachers who work with students beyond campus hours, and also browse through their social media profiles. So we have a team that does social media profile browsing for all our students
Amazing.
periodically. So even if they don't share with us, we can reach out to them and say, what you're doing is great. I got to know about it. Would love to know more. And two, we can support it in some way. That I think kind of helps us understand who is doing what, and then intervention in terms of parent conversation through teachers. We have that advantage with UG students at least. We do reach out to parents. I have made such con calls with parents for like 15-20 minutes to just tell them, look, this is not completely wrong. We can give him time, give her time,
Yeah.
3 months, 6 months, and we are with you. Let's discuss. Once teacher tell them, I think they're fairly more confident. If student is supposed to tell them, difficult. Conversation doesn't go through in most of the cases.
No, I absolutely agree. I just want to touch, because what he said was very important, because apart from parents being the first round of influencers, teachers and professors are the next round of external validation and influencers, and it's so important, because I remember when I was a kid, my history teacher, she would always encourage us to do things that are different apart from subject, because most teachers want you to just make sure
Focus
you
on
max out in a particular paper. But mentoring the students over and above subject, to upskill themselves is so important. So absolutely agree.
Got it. That's pretty interesting to see that. So coming to you, right, Anand, I wanted to understand, like, you come from a family of people who've all been in service, who've all been employed, who are used to the regular paycheck
Correct.
and all of that, and even you follow the same trajectory, and then eventually decided to move towards entrepreneurship, right? What are the mindset changes that you had to learn anew, because you're not accustomed to that kind of mindset changes? What are the kind of mindset changes that you had to learn anew from your environment or from your peers for you to make this entrepreneurial shift?
That's a great question, Gautam. First, I just want to say that when he spoke about the universities and what they're doing right now, when I studied, there was none of those stuff.
I agree.
Okay, there was
Yeah.
absolutely none of those stuff. You just study, read your books, write your exam, and get out, and then after that, you find your own way. Okay.
Okay. There
And
was no campus.
there
also.
was no such thing as mentoring, none of those things. Okay.
Nothing.
And we had no idea what the industry was. And typically, I'm talking about, I graduated out 1985. I came out as an engineer.
Okay.
Okay, so that's like
Mm.
eons back. Okay, like I have to go like the Star Wars. I need to go backwards in time. So when I came out, really there was nothing much in terms of that, and the people in business were from business families. Okay, and then that's the way it was. And people from outside of a business family would find it extremely difficult to get started there in business, because the concept was that people had to think about money, and most people who worked in jobs then also made just enough to keep afloat, and there would be very rarely a chance for them to actually fund you in your idea. So in my case, I graduated, took up a job exactly the same way as like anybody else would do. I ended up working, and I grew very well in my career. And when I reached a point where in my career that I was going to take up a much more significant role, but this bug was always there with me, and then nobody around me helped me in actually nurturing that. Okay, it was just absolutely not there. So there are key mindsets, I think, that are really important when it comes to. Number one is, in academia you study a lot of theory stuff. Well, it gives you a framework. It's really important to get that framework.
Right.
Okay, the framework is extremely important, because if you work within a framework, its chances of success is very high. But then when you actually put it to practice, practice really teaches you what really life is all about. And sometimes theory just doesn't translate to reality in the real world. And that was something which was like a shocker for me when I actually got into an entrepreneurship. When I just decided I'll quit my job and come, first and foremost is everybody around me, including my family, thought there was something wrong with me. Okay, being in a peak of a career, going abroad, and this guy quits and comes back and wants to start a business of his own with no support, no nothing. People actually thought there was something wrong with me, and that's when the reality hit me, because I had so much of knowledge with me, but that knowledge was just absolutely useless when I came into real life, because I had the second area which I was not good at, is adaptability. I had grown in my career in a certain framework that I was there. I had power, I had all of those things. And when I became an entrepreneur, I had to change the entire outlook to look at, power just doesn't work in an entrepreneur. Like, I cannot control people. I can't control myself either there. So you understand how it is. So, and then there are so many business acumen things that we need to learn. Financial intelligence was absolutely a not. Okay, zero. Okay, if you think about the mindset of failure, okay, which is really something that is looked up or down upon in academia, because we always put up the guys who actually top the class. Okay, they
Right.
are the ones who are really, wow, this is the great guy, this is everything is. And failure is never looked upon as something which is an integral part of success. Okay, failure is looked down upon in most cases, and if people don't do well, you know how people look at, and even today it exists. Okay, but in an entrepreneur journey, failure is critically important to succeed,
Correct.
because you got to fail forward, and it's a learning experience. And that was a mindset that I had to develop, that if I missed out on something, it's not bad, it's good. Okay, and that was a mindset change which I really had to put inside me to understand, because I never came from a mindset of where failure was considered okay. Okay, so that was a very interesting. And the third area that I was very interested in is execution. And that's where an entrepreneur has to learn how to execute things. You may have great ideas, people have fantastic ideas, really brilliant stuff, but at the end of the day, if the rubber doesn't meet the road, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So if you don't execute your plans, it just turns out to be just all wishful thinking, and it's just a waste of time. And finally, one of the things that I always realized is I never thought of the value of a vision. Okay, I never started my business with a vision. Okay, I really thought, okay, let me do something. If it gives me money, I'll do something. That's the kind of thing I had. That was my vision. My vision was make some money. Okay, more than I can spend. That's the way it was. But then what happens there is stumbling blocks when they come in your way. If you don't have a strong vision, a longer term vision in that, it's very easy to give up. And that's why if you see the statistics of business people, if you see most people fail in maybe 3-4 businesses before they actually make it.
Right.
if you see
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And that's primarily because nobody has a vision about where they're going to take their business to, and they will just start up something on their own. But it's a good start any which way, because you have to fail. Okay. And so now, with ThinkFit, okay, we have a core vision to actually impact 1 million lives, okay, by 2028. That's our goal. That's our vision. And when you have a vision, okay, you can break it down to short term goals and then start to work on it. And when some things become a stumbling block for us, the vision keeps us motivated. And so I urge everybody who's new, youngster, who want to really get into this one, the way you can develop a vision is to actually connect with somebody who can be a mentor with you. Okay. Network with people. Okay. And connect with somebody who can mentor you in this area, because that's I think something that is lacking in the space. If you get good mentors around them from the industry,
Right.
they would really shine, because great ideas are there with the young people. The only thing is, it has to see the light of execution. It has to see the light of some failure and again bounce back. It also has to see the light of success coming through a channel of mentoring from people who can actually guide them in that path. And that's when you'll have a lot of success stories, and one entrepreneur impacts millions of lives. It's not just one person that he impacts. I go for a job and come back, I impact my family more and more than, and there's very little social impact if you really look at. But an entrepreneur, not because of what they do, the number of lives they can impact is humongous. And I think these are the four things: adaptability, a mindset change, execution, and then a vision. These are four key areas that I think any youngster should get in.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Very
So
nice.
your pre-liberalization era, right?
Yeah,
So when jobs were difficult to come by, and you're a 5-year engineer also.
yeah. It's no. I was in the 4-year batch, which was the first batch of the 4-year scheme,
Okay.
and that was like another story, in fact.
Oh, okay. So got it. So now help me understand. So you went to a job and then you started your own company. How would you starting a company right out of your college or during your college versus you after having worked for some time and starting the company kind of impacted you or would have impacted you the other way?
Well, I think you know I had probably this mindset of being my own boss right through my this one. Because I've always been quite different from the normal people. For
I agree.
example, I could give just an example of maybe this might give you my son. Okay, we have one son. Me and my wife Vasanta, we have one son, and I should say two, because I have a husky who's my son too. So this, when he was in his fourth standard, in a third standard, he said one day he walks up, and we used to watch him watch these cartoon networks, and that's what children do. We come home, they're watching the cartoon stuff and things like that, and then suddenly out of the blue, we whenever we used to come back, we used to see only cricket on the television screen. I don't know what happened to him when he was in his third standard, and ever right through he just was in that area, like watching that. And then suddenly he comes up to me one day. Imagine a fourth standard old kid, okay, walks in,
My
9-year
daughter
old
is
kid
in
walks
fourth.
in, huh?
My daughter is in fourth. I can
Fourth,
imagine.
you can imagine. She's about 9 now.
Yeah.
9. He comes in at 9 and says, "I want to pursue cricket." I said, "Okay, fine. You want to pursue? Come, let's go." I enrolled him in an academy, and then he started working there. And then suddenly one day he comes halfway through that, and he was not yet in fourth. He was just going to fourth at that time. So he just comes in and says, there are people who actually practice during the daytime, and that's with my school time. So then I just said, okay, if that's the case, you want to do, take a break from school, no problem. Okay.
Standard.
Yeah,
Fifth
for my
grade.
son, I said, yeah, just get off school 1 year if you want to do it. And he has no idea, but he had a passion. So
Amazing.
the idea was, I'm just trying to, I got him off school. When I went to school at that time, to get him off the school, the typical academic thing that happens there was, they were more concerned about whether I would take him to another school and they would lose a student,
Hmm.
more than the
Yes.
the object of what. So my talk with the school authorities was very simple. The principal and everybody, I said, I don't want to waste time for both of us, because if I try to explain what I'm going to do, you're not going to understand. And if you try to explain what you want me to understand, I will not be able to understand. It's better we don't worry about that. I'm assuring you I'm not taking him to another school. And I walked out from there. And at that time, people around me, they, because it was sort of, even today, it's like, very rarely that people put people out of school. It's not looked upon correctly. Like, but the fact was, people looked that this guy is like, something. Out of it. But this, my son has been to IIM Ahmedabad. He's done his digital strategy course after that, and he pursued his passion for a very long time. So the key thing that I'm trying to tell you is, you have to be willing to take risks. If this one, and
Yeah.
at that time, even though my parents and others were not for it, okay, uh, they were not like, they were not for it, means they were not for it within that, in that that but they would not interfere with me, because that, I'm very grateful that I have parents like that. Even though they were never in entrepreneurship, they sort of thought business would be bad, kind of situation. But then eventually they didn't stop me from doing it. And either way, even if they tried to stop me, I wouldn't have agreed. That's why I would have still done it.
That's why they did
And
not
I think,
stop you.
yeah. So I think, and those days it was difficult because it was not the liberalization area. Today, you have the Shark Tanks and whatnot coming in there. Entrepreneurship is looked upon as, I want to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be a startup, and we are in Bangalore now, a startup capital of the
Capital.
country. Everybody wants to do it, but those days, if you wanted to do it, you have one stumbling block after another. So you really had to be able to stand up to it and, just say, this is what I'm going to give it a go. Meaning, I don't care what happens. And sometimes you got to trust your instincts. And that's what has kept me, like, my instincts told me to do something, and I've done it. Throughout my business career, uh, you know, there are times when data has not matched my instinct. Okay, data told me that, well, this is not the right thing, but then my instinct told me this was good, and I think I've been pretty spot on with those things, and I made lots of decisions on instinct, and that has really helped me in my business too, all my businesses that I've done till now. So, but then you have to take that risk and take that plunge. That's the way I would put it. You don't learn swimming by standing on the side. You got to, be in the pool to make that. You got to take that plunge first.
Happy to know that I'm not the only outcast in this
Yeah, very
podcast.
much, very
So,
much.
so cool. So Amol, I wanted to also understand, right? What are the key characteristics in students that you observe who end up becoming entrepreneurs, or that are that have higher propensity to explore entrepreneurship? What have you observed?
I think first and foremost is some technically indisciplinary, aspects in terms of not attending all the sessions, doing side hustles, also doing something that teachers won't encourage otherwise. I'll tell you personal experiences with this. I was head of ED cell for entrepreneurship cell for good 5 years, starting from 2011. And I was also the class teacher for one of the three divisions that we had back then for MBA. And my division was Division B. And that division had every year students who were just up to the mark, first class. They would rarely fail, but they would do better in campus placements and also in life. But not the ones that teachers would prefer, because they were neither going to come in distinction, nor they were the worst ones who can be groomed a lot. So they were very reluctant to take feedback, and they won't accept anything and everything as it is. That's the group that I've always dealt with. And parallelly, entrepreneurship cell. So the first thing that I noticed is student who against whom there are observations about not attending all the sessions, doing something else, sleeping in the class, having network outside, which sometimes assumed to be not a good network to have, so on and so forth. That's the first thing, and those are the students that I would take in the cell and talk to them first. The second characteristics, I think the confidence part of it. It's needed a lot. You need expertise in the technical stuff and on the hardcore abilities, but you need someone who is courageous enough to share an idea, to reject an idea, or to ask for something better. And those things are visible in campus, because such candidates would do that more often. It's tough for teachers and campuses to deal with candidates like these on an average, I'm saying, unless you have a campus with at least 30% teachers who appreciate it, also the management who understands it. Like for us in Vishwakarma, it's a business family run trust. So that also helps us, I think, in a way to take some chances. Else it's tough because if students have to take risk, even teachers have to take bit of risk.
Yep.
Even parents also have to take bit of risk. I think that's where the concept of ecosystem is important. And I think Anand was also talking about the same thing. If you have that system that encourages it, or at least doesn't discourage it in the first place, that's a good thing. And other one is, I think, taking ownership. So I had students in ED cell. If they commit 70%, it's okay if they don't commit 90. But if they commit 70 and no backlog, that has to happen. And if students do it, and I think that is the quality that is required, it's a delivery. Whether they deliver 90 or 70, it's secondary. But once they say 70 and they have 70 and no backlog, I think that's what they need. They're good enough to sit for campus placements. There are no complaints from parents as such, at least because of the backlog. And for teachers, it is at least student is heading into next semester and the next year, and is out during the stipulated time. So I'm not sure if most of the campuses have these capabilities to understand and also appreciate and also tackle it separately.
Okay.
The bigger challenge with teachers is how do you tackle such 10%, 20%, 30% audience. And there's compliance also in terms of attendance. They want to do projects, these students, they always have an idea, they want to demonstrate something. They need space. They might not join all the classes on time. They might want to leave early. They would ask for exceptions which are abnormal seemingly,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
because if they cite a reason by saying I want to meet somebody who is a business person, and the person next question will be, is it a session or interview, will you record it, will you submit as an assignment? The person says, no, I'm not sure, it's just one of the connects that someone suggested and I want to just have a talk. The very obvious question teacher would ask is, what is the agenda? And the person says, there's no such agenda, I just want to meet and see what he is doing and why he's doing the way he's doing. Maybe there are some learnings. um, Difficult overall, I think, in the ecosystem that we have. Any campus that does better on these fronts and considers these exceptions as default within the range, I think would do better on multiple fronts. And as I said, recruiters are okay with such candidates these days. It's not just the sincerity, hard work, and the marks that is the criteria. Uh,
We've observed that, very very true. They should be diligent misfits. That's what
I
Yeah.
agree
you're
with you.
kind of
I
alluding
like
to.
the word diligent.
Diligent misfits. So they'll do what they want to do. They'll not do everything that you want them to do.
right.
So and then eventually they don't get along with authority.
That's just the range or the playing field that needs to be defined rather than saying this is the lane. You at least give them options to say that these are the three different options or this is the range, and let them walk. It need not be straight all the time. As long as the range is defined, they'll reach their destination. And I think if you're okay with it, they would tend to do better because it allows them to take bit of risk, be creative, that element of flexibility.
I
Like
can
I used to say, 80% is the, if the attendance required, then rest 20 is with you. Sometimes you give me medical certificate, sometimes you don't have it. You manage within 20, best. I don't need you in class for all my sessions. In fact, why? Because they're not doing anything else. One should be doing that, even in corporate job for that matter. If you're just doing what is told, then it's going to be troublesome
Absolutely.
for the organization also.
Very boxed.
If you're not exploring, and if you're not exploring, who else will explore?
Agree.
If you're a
if you're
team
not
of 10,
exploring, you will be kicked out after some time. So why companies prefer people who've done entrepreneurship is because we need a lot of entrepreneurs within the company. People who are generally enterprising and who want to try out new things. Generally, they don't get along with people. As in, I would say not everybody. They get along with really good intellect minds.
right?
If somebody is trying to put them in a box or telling them follow the process, they're the first ones to jump the line. The first ones to disrupt the system. They'll not do anything as told. I've observed, I've been there
Correct.
myself. And
See, the companies are also looking at disruptions. Companies are also operating in a marketplace that is not very, set and predictable. So, who is going to bring in that innovation? The company's
Correct.
product portfolio has to evolve. So, someone in the team has to evolve. If it's a 100 people company, it is one of those 100 or multiple of those who are supposed to take responsibility. It's not someone else will come and force and say that, okay, we innovate. And you need to nurture innovators over a period of time. It's not like we decide today and within 3 months we'll have 10 innovators. It's not going to be like that. So I think taking chances on multiple fronts diligently,
Uh,
but still taking chances.
yeah, rather than putting 100% of your effort in just getting the marks, put in 50%, get 70%, and then the other 50% you can focus on other things, because after it is the curve of diminishing returns. So after 50% of effort in academics, no matter how much you put in, right, the improvement you see in your marks is very limited. Instead, you can kind of diversify that and do it. And I have fintech companies which the strategy department kind of lets people uh, you know come up with ideas, and then they give ownership. And if the idea sees the light of the day, and if it's successful, they also have some equity in that whole thing. So this would be possible only by an entrepreneur, not because one of the main reasons I have seen is that I don't think it's just me, all of you would have seen the top 5 to 10% rankers, right? They never manage to go beyond that after they enter corporate life, because they are very clear on, they've relied only on themselves. They don't know to lobby. So
Yeah.
they think everything that they have to do is on them, and they don't need anybody's help. And usually it's not how the real world works.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think
So
you had an interesting point because, like you said, you know, companies are looking for people who are able to disrupt and be entrepreneurial. If you look at in the West, maybe yes, or in India, public limited companies, but in the last 2 decades or so, the concept of equity being given to a majority of the workforce has rapidly increased.
Right.
Today, before they will just set aside 1%, 2% of the cap table, but now this companies are willing to give away up to 49% to employees, wherein if you're able to really contribute, and like you said, the key word is ownership. If you're able to take ownership, then you are in a way an entrepreneur within an organization, right, to create that disruption. So absolutely agree.
so Richard, on that point, right? Let me wanted to understand. So when somebody is in college, right? Let's say he has an education loan. Okay, talking about entrepreneurship is all good and nice and cool and all of that. He has an education loan that from the day he passes out, he has to repay. And the parents, let's say for example, the parents are dependent on him financially. They've put all their efforts in getting this kid out of college, so that once he's done, he's a contributing member. And then on top of this, he has passion for entrepreneurship. Now this is the, I think, the triad in
Crux.
which most people fall into.
Yeah.
Right.
And when people are there,
Promising ones do.
so no, people do it despite that. Okay, it's not that it was given to somebody in a platter.
Absolutely.
Everybody here would have done it despite all these challenges.
Right.
But how do we have an ecosystem which kind of promotes this and supports this? How do you think we can kind of
I
go
think
about
it's also culture in a certain way, because if you look at the West, and I don't mean to ape the West or say the West is better than India, but I think in the West, once you're 18, you become responsible. You practically, they ask you to leave the house.
16?
Yeah, now it's 16, right? Go get a job, work in McDonald's, do what you have to do. But here we protect our kids, and I've got 3 kids, and I'm very protective of them. But I think to answer your question specifically, I think the as parents, that's a culture we need to inculcate in the kids, wherein we let that ownership, saying, hey, you know what? From 16, 18, whatever that age is, you need to start getting responsible. If it means are working 2 jobs, or doing something on the side as a side hustle, to ensure you are able to take some financial responsibility at home, makes a big difference, because then your parents also, then the mindset changes. Hey, you know what, my son is doing this. And I'll give you a practical example, of my second son. you know uh, he's been a gamer throughout his life, his complete life. He's been just playing games. And and just like any typical Indian parent, I was like, no, you need to go for your JE classes, you need to do this. And then 1.5 years ago, he came and told me, he said, Dad, I am not made out for this. I want to do a course in gaming. And believe me, it was such a struggle, though. I
Mm.
come, just like Anand, I'm also a first generation entrepreneur. For me, I'm like, all this struggle in my heart. I didn't have the guts like you did to say, what, take that risk. I was still like, really. But then I ultimately said, go do what you want. So now he's in the Netherlands doing a course in gaming. He's doing a game design engineering course. And it was very tough, because my wife was like, are you nuts? He's very intelligent, so he could have easily cracked the JE and gone to one of the IITs and whatnot. It was a big decision, but because I saw him practically. He created, I think, what, 7 games prior to him entering college. And some of those games made a little money. It's not big money, but when you see that result, the financial responsibility, like I just mentioned before, so as a parent, then you start believing in that direction, right? So I think like I said, culture, parents need to believe in their children in terms of what they can do. Children need to take responsibilities for some of the financial obligations, just like the West.
Got it. So Amol, in this aspect, right, what I told is the ideal, you know, dilemma that the student faces
Right.
or the parent faces. In those cases, how do you, kind of help them alleviate that kind of a stress?
I think what uh, seems to work with us is, I think, balancing vision and patience, because the financial requirement is a harsh reality that needs to be understood. As an entrepreneur also, the same candidate cannot run away with it. Entrepreneur is
Yeah.
bound to deal with similar financial, I won't say crisis, but financial constraint related scenarios over a period of time. So first thing first is, I think, in the short run, if money, the repayment of loan is a priority, that needs to be respected by everybody, including the student, campus, and then peers to a certain extent. That's the short term part of it, I'm saying. The side hustle part of it, and such students should ideally work in a team. Reason being, then somebody else can focus more on the venture part of it for a few years, and you
Correct.
also have the fuel coming in the form of money. So one typically in teams that can work better. So there's one who is funding the venture, there's one who is supporting the family for a shorter period of time, maybe couple of years, and you can decide at right point in time once you're done with it. That's where the vision part of, as I said, career in India is still at least 30 years. Forget the concept of retiring at 40, but I don't think students are planning for 60. So I look at the midpoint of 50 by and large. But essentially, it means 30 years time span that one has. And not everybody is going to do everything within first 3 years. One should not even aspire to do that. That's too demanding.
Yeah.
So 30-year time span is, even if the student doesn't start just after graduation, student can start after 7 years, 10 years maybe. That's the patience part of is what I'm emphasizing
Yeah.
on, without this discarding the whole, the reality, and saying that no, doesn't matter, you can still start. That will be too much, I think. So such students should take care of family first, because that is the family that has supported them, and it's a harsh reality. So those 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, even if your job, go for it, earn enough so that your responsibility is taken care of, and then you can start. So the right time to start is something that, there's nothing like right, by the way, but still I would say, better time to start. The discussion should be about timing to start full fledged. The partial one can start early also. More, I think, unless beginning of Anand's career or my career also in 2005, when we had 6 days a week, now it's 5 days a week. Most of the places you have weekends. And with students, I think even if they use one of those two
Yeah, yeah,
days on
absolutely.
weekend to do something, they'll be able to still continue with the passion part,
Yeah.
bit of freelancing, so that they are in touch, they're doing something, they're building something, and they'll have to wait for an opportunity, and that has to be financially
Viable.
viable.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And that also builds that financial, the
Discipline.
acumen and discipline right from the beginning,
Yeah, that's the
and
unfortunate
ownership
thing.
for the collective accountability, not just my own growth as an individual. Now it's family. In future, you'll take debt to loan from the bank. then you have team members in your team, isn't it? Entrepreneur is in a way answerable for all of this.
Yeah.
We get paid last.
Yeah.
At the 30th of the month,
Yeah.
when you have to pay your
So it's not
salaries,
just
then
So you are starting to think about the 30th of the month from the 20th of the month. So
In fact, when we talk about entrepreneurship and students and things like that, it's I think the concept is, if you see in India, what happens is the government doesn't provide social security for geriatric people, old
Hmm.
people. There's no such thing as that. Healthcare and your own living itself becomes a nightmare if there is no family support. Okay,
Right.
and simply
Kids
because,
education.
yeah, and if they have gone through a conventional path of a job post retirement, you see that their salary just goes down. There's no pension, there's no nothing today. Okay, so what happens is they have to depend on something. In other countries, the government takes care of most
correct.
of the this one, whereas here our children become our social security. So one of the biggest things that a youngster needs to understand is, first thing is, you need to cut that umbilical cord thinking that your children are going to take care of you. You should get that mindset. When you get the mindset that my children are not going to take care, even current today's parents who are nurturing young children, they should first need to think is, my child is not my social security for
Yeah,
me. I need to create something for myself that I'll take care of my life. And we need to give them the freedom to live their life the way they want to live it, and
absolutely.
explore. Then that's when innovation will come. Most of us, most of the conventional parents are, children have to take care of them. It's become like almost like a law for them.
Yeah,
And if they don't, you only hear them grumbling all the while.
there are new laws or something that you will be
You'll be
you,
put
you'll be convicted if you don't take care of your
your
parents.
correct.
parents.
There is, like, so many things which are coming in, but in the West that's not the case.
Yeah,
Post 18 they go out, they take their own things and they do their own thing.
Right.
And so that freedom, I think, in modern India, I think it's coming in now. The young India, it
evolving.
is becoming like that, where parents are becoming self sufficient. So one of the biggest mindsets that which I didn't get it in the initial stage was, uh, time was money for me. Okay, I invested time because I went into a job. I worked 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, 15 hours, whatever I worked for the company, I got paid, and time equals money. And what I did with that money was pathetic. Really, I just blew up the worry. You understand what happens, when you're young, you just enjoy your life and do it. And I didn't even take a small pie of it
Hmm.
to create an asset of myself. Okay, because assets give money back.
Correct.
Okay, so that financial acumen, if youngsters are taught during their
Absolutely.
university career about how to really decide to build an asset, not just you become the asset. Okay, and if they learn how that small skill of learning how to actually start to develop and put together assets could mean in terms of money, it could mean in terms of building a team. A team is an asset. Okay, so you leverage on other people's time, and that's what business is all about. Business leverages on other people's time, other people's skills, other people's all other things that they bring in effort is what multiplies the effort for the entrepreneur. And as an individual, we can't do it. So that mindset, if they can learn during entrepreneurship, during their university course, if there is some kind of a mentoring there, and if an industry partner comes in. Very recently, I have just on we are just going to sign an MOU with a company which is working on the in the careers,
Mm-hmm.
on mentorship. And what they do is, the disconnect between industry and education is what they are trying to bridge. And unfortunately for them, there are thousands of schools and colleges which are willing to have these young kids come out to get mentored. But unfortunately, there's such a big lack of mentors available from the industry, because everybody in industry has their own hands full, and nobody wants to put a little bit of time effort outside
To give
to
back.
actually take on somebody on, and mentor that young kid and take them on and give them an outlook into the industry as to what it works. So I just decided that it is a certain portion of my time I'm going to dedicate towards that. Okay, wherein I will take on maybe young people in the healthcare space that I'm going to actually focus on now, where I will bring them on and
Mm.
I will mentor them, maybe internships that we will actually give them. We will actually nurture them. Tomorrow they could be partners with us.
Yeah.
Got it.
True.
Tomorrow we can leverage on their skill sets. Exceptional talent can come in. Innovation can come in from mindsets which are a different age group from us. Okay, so to bridge that gap, it's important that industry and education institutions sort of partner together to bring on industry experts and expose the people to the industry. If they don't, it's going to be just academic and books, and they come and everybody fails all the time and makes the mistakes what an entrepreneur has done. And we can learn from other people's experience. That can happen if that university can actually take that initiative. And this I'm very excited about this mentorship program that I'm on now, and I'm working with a few people that. And once this MOU is signed, we will be taking on a lot of people in the healthcare space as interns, and working not just interns who will work full time with us in a way, but then even others whom we will mentor
Got it.
and give them the skill sets of what is required eventually for them. Whether they become an entrepreneur or not is irrelevant, but the ideas and the thought process of an entrepreneur will be there with them.
Got it. So I wanted to, kind of touch upon, right? You are an entrepreneur today and you know what you know today because you blew up the money that you made. So that is a core part of the learning.
Correct.
And there is this, new fad that, you start saving at 20, then you will become a crorepati by this, that, and all. That is all assuming that you will
Financial
never have
freedom.
an never that's a boring dream that is sold, that you will realize after 30 years that it is because it is imagining that you will put the same amount of money for the next 30 years,
Correct.
and you will never have an emergency in your life. And
That's true.
if you ever withdraw from that, your clock resets back to zero. At least you blow your money, you have an experience that you can reflect back on, and you will have a learning from that. And more importantly, I believe that when you start, you are your most prized asset. All the
Absolutely.
investment has to happen on you, so that you become more valuable,
Yeah.
so that you are not trading time for money, you're trading value for money. And then eventually, then because look, any unicorn founder or any entrepreneur or any billionaire for that matter never got there by saving.
Absolutely.
And why do we preach to the whole world that you start saving? So ideally, what they should do is they should take as much risks as possible. Save some money. Go and work in a startup, live off that money, try different things in the first 5 years of their career, so that they can experiment everything. And then if nothing works out, still they have a career.
Absolutely.
So that is something that I think we should promote, because there is this too much thing around, start early, save from your 20s. If you save from your 20s, you know how the compounding will work at 55. 55 he should be alive, right?
Yeah.
He should
Yeah.
be alive and kicking.
Yeah.
And not also, you're assuming an equilibrium right through his 30 years of career. You're assuming
What
all
if he
the
loses the job?
Hmm.
you have no idea what happens in between. And these are stories that we hear regularly of people who started somewhere today. They're not there.
So I think it's a middle path. I mean, I partially agree with you, but I want to pick up on what Anand said. Like I said, financial acumen or discipline, like we just discussed, is very important. Like if somebody had told me, and somebody did tell me, I must give credit. I was one of my businesses about whatever 15, 16 years ago was with the uh, Birla family. And his life was so simple. He had a suitcase that was probably some 25 years old, a billionaire. But one thing that he taught me, he said, balance whatever you do, live life like you rightly said, be happy, but try and balance. And he told me, he said, let's assume you spend 5,000 rupees on your social life over a weekend. Okay, sacrifice one weekend, go buy a 1 gram gold coin.
Hmm.
Don't throw away all your sacrifice, find a middle path. And and then, like Anand rightly said, you start creating wealth. Once you start creating wealth in physical tangible wealth, you get encouraged to save more and create more. So it's about a balance, I feel, not just saying let me just blow up everything that I get. Because for me, I wish somebody had taught me that much earlier in life. Today I'm very conscious about how I live my life. Okay, I love to splurge on things that I like, but the same way, where I can save, I'm I advocate that with my children. My daughter sent me a picture. She's what, 15 years old. She sent me a picture of the latest iPhone. I said, earn it. Just wait. It'll come. Due course. It's not like I can go out tomorrow morning and get it for her. But I said, 2 years. Wait for it, earn it. So I think it's about a balance, right? Like I said, sacrifice a little, create wealth with it.
No, I totally agree. So what I'm, so as in I saved up for the first 4 years of my career and then blew it all up on my startup, went back to zero, went to negative, and then came back again.
Like,
Yeah.
So it's all a
it's
part
a
of the process. So because I had that saving, only I was able to do, but never did I, live in deprivation of anything.
you shouldn't.
So because what like somebody making 40,000, you advocate them, telling them, boss, you go ahead and save 25,000 of your, you live in a PG, you live
No,
in
no, no,
this,
no,
do
no, no.
that, and all his life he'll be kicking, thinking that okay, this money is growing, 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 and then he gets one emergency, he withdraws all the money, and then he
No, no,
frees it
agreed.
back to zero. He doesn't have an experience now. He doesn't have the money also now. That's a very sad part, and
Yeah,
and at a high level, we this simplicity is kind of overrated in India because the socialist trains are still a part of our fabric, is what I believe.
correct.
It
you
is.
you 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 should, boss, you made the money, you should be allowed to spend the money. There
Yeah,
is a lot of inequality. Everybody who has made money has also worked their way through that
correct.
inequality. That's what I believe. And coming to Amol's point, right? So ideally, if I were to kind of summarize what you had told, so as in you should try different startups within the entire college term and see if something sees the light of the day, you're able to make money. So then when you're making money, you can opt that right out of college. If it's still not making money, work in teams, people who can afford to spend full time, and
Yeah,
then while you go for a job and work on this part time,
right.
and then when it sees the light of the day,
Hustle.
you can come back again. So that is an interesting point. And then the support that universities give for people who pursue entrepreneurship, for them to come back 2 years and then avail this thing, right? So that is a very good initiative. I really admired that. I didn't know that though.
Yeah. So I think the one of the challenges I am, as I said earlier, as entrepreneurship faculty, we talk to other teachers also. We have to give respect to some of the challenges that teachers have to deal with. Is I think a lot to do with values, as you said, simplicity versus the elegance part of it, or maybe financial importance of savings and to what extent one should save, then to what extent one should be creative, at what age people should take risk, to what extent a person should prioritize his or her personal development versus that of the family and the peers and giving back and all of that. I think there's an interesting exercise by a person called Dr. Demartini, and he talks about the value determination process, and he says it's a self assessment. There are 13 questions. That's what I do with some of my mentees, not for all the students, because it takes time. So there are 13 questions that are asked, and that kind of give you idea of what are the things that this person is prioritizing. Not getting into reasons, but knowing what is important to this fellow. And about teachers, as I said, the dilemma for campuses is you'll have to decide on something, isn't it? If we're promoting something, in a way, we are discouraging something else. So these are choices that need to be kind of discussed or should be discussed openly. I think for campuses, it's critical to discuss this. Okay, what is our priority? What percentage of students should get into corporates? Uh, because we know it can't be 100, but let's not say that it can be even 5 or 10, because parents still need to see those numbers. And encouraging everybody to start as a whole business is not considered positively by many. Imagine a campus that is only talking about entrepreneurship in India, and even 25 for that matter, 20, forget 24. I think there are people who would say they're not able to give jobs, that's why they are promoting entrepreneurship,
Yeah,
and why they
it's
are
a bad
promoting
fact.
it for everybody. So these decisions, or the the dilemmas part of it, is something that needs to be discussed uh, 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 internally, and also kind of promoted, that this is the range, the diligent, the choices, that this is the range that in which we operate, and these are the related points. If that is not done, it's difficult to then give that space to people to try out. And it's not just for students, by the way. On a campus, you can imagine teachers drive a good number of things. That space is required for teachers also, because as Richard said, it is teachers who are going to deal with students. It is human with human. Policies, structures, and guidelines is all okay, but within that class of 40 minutes, what teacher has to say, choice is with a teacher. Intentionally, unintentionally, teacher can either encourage or discourage something, and that all goes unnoticed. Honestly, he was talking about, I think, Hindi class, by the way, or history class. No, this not about entrepreneurship, but what you say about ownership, what you say about risk taking, what you say about money.
Yeah.
You might talk about it in maybe engineering class about money, and if you say that okay, money is needed, but only so much is enough. Let's not prioritize money. You have passed on a message telling people money has only limited importance, versus another person who in the flow says money is everything. If you have assets, you can build technologies, you can build solutions. Now the person is talking about another extreme. I hope you are getting my point.
I
And such
understand.
300 teachers on campus, and let's say 10,000 students, what happens then? This dialogue is routine, and it's not just a policy decision or something that you can print. So when you talk about ecosystem on campus, this is what I mean. If you have a vibrant culture for entrepreneurship, it means people prioritize entrepreneurship in a manner that is visible, and also they understand limits. They don't go overboard with it.
Nobody who does not have money should say that money is not important.
Yeah, absolutely. Money is important.
Money is important. Once you cross a certain number, that's when additional money does not make any impact.
uh,
But till you reach that number, and I believe only financially independent people should even talk about money. Others are not qualified to talk about money.
I
right.
totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is what it is. So Richard, coming to you, right? I want to kind of understand, help us understand what are the initial struggles that you faced when you started your entrepreneurial journey, and how did you navigate and overcome them?
I think it's an ongoing process. Like Anand rightly pointed out, failures are a big part of any journey. And for me, even right now, like I mentioned, I'm doing something in the sustainable space. We're trying to create biodegradable tableware, non-toxic incense products, non-toxics, children's, stationery items. And believe me, every trial we do, there's failure, failure, failure. So I think what's important is to like Anand, again, I'm going to pick on what he said, is to understand, that failure is always going to help you tip, and learn something from it. Because, you can take Apple, for example. Steve Jobs failed multiple times, multiple times, multiple times, but he just kept going at it. And I think the important thing is to understand, not to give up, but there's also a course, right? You have to allow it to run its course, because sometimes, entrepreneurship is about decision making and saying, hey, you know what, this may not necessarily work,
Mm.
right? Because people say don't give up, don't give up, and then you're stuck with something that's failing, failing, failing. And then, so you have to let it allow the course, and you need to define that course. 6 months, 1 year, the life cycle of anything has to be defined, and then at some point you have to be mature enough to say no. So I think for me, it's about three things. One is clarity of thought. Whatever we do, we have to be absolutely clear in our minds. Number two is execution. Like again, Anand pointed out, you have to be able to execute your idea. Because not everything. I mean, everybody has fantastic ideas, and I'm sure as businessmen, we all believe that we have the next best big idea that's going to change the world. But is it executable? And I think number three is financial discipline. And I'm a big fan of saying that you don't need lakhs or crores or millions of dollars to start a business. You don't. I've done multiple businesses where my initial capital has been small amounts of money, and then you slowly grow from there. So I think failure is about learning, and if you're able to learn from every failure that you've had, you can be successful.
So, so like there is a saying that goes, entrepreneurship is a lot of failures with few big wins in between,
Correct.
Mm.
and those big wins usually tend to pay up for your all your failures.
Yeah.
And then always you have to be successful only one time in your life to be called a lifetime success. You can fail 100 times, nobody
Correct.
gives a damn about it, and then you just become successful once, and then you're like set for life. So that is something that I really like about what you told. And yeah, entrepreneurship should be the default career option according to me, but not for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I mentioned before, it can always be a blend. It doesn't necessarily have to be you are the founder CEO. Not necessarily.
Mm.
Entrepreneurship, and I'm a firm believer in that you can be a one man army, you can employ, 10,000 people. It doesn't matter. The point is being responsible or taking ownership for one's skill. And you could be a single man army, you could be a 10,000 plus workforce army. It doesn't matter. You need to take that responsibility for who you are.
Uh, a very interesting point earlier you made is that an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean he's funded by a VC sitting in a glass office with 100 people team. It technically means somebody who has control over his life.
100%. I have a designer, and I will not mention his name. He makes an average of 18 lakhs a month, okay, just by doing design work. He goes onto all these international platforms, puts out his artwork, okay, and he creates designs. He was
Right.
employed in a company, I think probably for 75 or 80,000 rupees as a full time employee. He decided to quit, and so he's a one man army. Okay, and I've told him many times, you're so successful. Why didn't you hire, 10 people under you? He's like, no, sir. I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. I do 8 to 10 hours of work. I'm making a lot of money. I'm leading my life very happy. I'd like to be this one man, entrepreneur and take an ownership. So I'm just giving an example, right? So now, if I was in his position, I'd probably, hire 10 more people now that I've got the scalability, but everybody's different. But so the point, like you rightly said, you don't necessarily have to be, funded and expand and have these big, going back to what Anand said, have a vision. If your vision is only to be that much, so be it.
Right. I have a friend of mine who runs a recruitment consulting in the US. She tried the hire and train method, and she did it where she had a big team, and then she failed. She came back to a job. So that's where I worked with her when I was in my corporate stint. Then she started again. Now she's a solopreneur. She works with McKinsey, Booz, and all these guys as a recruitment consultant. Makes north of $4.5 million a year individually,
Okay.
and only works with people on like complete contract, not contract, success basis. So you are a recruitment consultant, you have bandwidth, I'll give you positions, you close, I'll give you your cut. So nobody on her payrolls. At 4.5 million, she's still nobody on her payrolls. Individually
Amazing.
4.5 million.
That's
See,
really good.
See, the analogy of it is in the my background is business management. So earlier we had asset heavy businesses. So wherein you needed those physical assets like factories and godowns and spaces. Then came era of asset light businesses. But only thing was the funding part of it came into picture, and India heavily I think picked that idea maybe about it's been like couple of decades that we're talking about funding led businesses, which is supposed to be the big thing. And that is also considered as a qualifier for someone to say that I am in business and it's a startup and we're doing something better. The moment we change that parameter to, let's say, that's how large companies are doing business through outsourcing. So we don't talk about their scale, which is like scale in terms of what they own 100%. We talk about scale including their outsourced business. The same is the thing with, I think, something that you mentioned. One of my alums also does similar. He has now pivoted to solopreneur. Had a team of 10, also team of about 25 freelancers working with him. Now there's no direct reportee. Plus, there's nobody to whom he has to give monthly payout per se. Now he's connected with far more number, maybe about 50 people or so, and globally, but is not answerable for their living and the salaries. So now he is able to pick the best one for the project for a defined duration, and that's the deal. And those people are out. They come back if there is opportunity, or they don't reconnect. That's how it is. But in nutshell, the leftover is much bigger compared to the earlier amount that he could take back on a monthly or annual basis. So I think these are the pivots depending on the nature of business. When you are in content, I think this works better.
Hmm.
It may not suit other sort of business where you need headcount. There are businesses where headcount is important. Like if you run a school, for example, unless you see count of teachers and teachers in the parents teacher meeting, in terms of a typical schooling, brick and mortar school, it's difficult to sustain that school, right?
Yeah.
True. Capital heavy businesses, and then there
Versus
are
asset light.
capital light. And then, to summarize it, so entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily mean you employ 100 people, take VC funding, sit in a glass
Correct.
office. Not necessarily. You could be a solopreneur, or you could even be an intrapreneur. You can be a number 15 in a very successful company and make more money than all the 90% of the entrepreneurs ever made.
Agreed.
So that is a very, very interesting thing. So Anand, I wanted to come back. What are the lessons can young entrepreneurs learn about resilience and adapting to adversity?
In in entrepreneurship, if you look at it, these two words go hand in hand with
Okay.
entrepreneur. See, resilience is critically important. See, and adaptability, what you said is, without those, you cannot really succeed in being an entrepreneur, because entrepreneur, there's nothing which is a defined path in an entrepreneur's journey. Okay, nothing is like, okay, in a job you come, if you join a job, there is a onboarding process, then you have this process and that process, then there's a mentoring process, so many things happen along, there are process driven. Whereas here you have to start things and you have to maintain things on your own, and there are going to be challenges all along the way. And it's not in the life of an entrepreneur, I'm not talking about the start or the mid or the even if they are well stable entrepreneurs, even there it's the same thing. Every day is going to be a different day. Every day is going to be a new beginning, new challenge. For example, in our case, if I look at ThinkFit as a company, we were very comfortably running in a what shall I say, an offline kind of a business. That's what pre-COVID, if you look at it. And then came the the pandemic, which changed the whole world and the way people started to look at things. And it took us we had to pivot then. Okay, we had to change. So and we cannot be resistant to change. We cannot just say, okay, I won't do it this way. And several people were resistant at that time, entrepreneurs. Where are they today? Many of them are not even existing today because they were resistant to that change. So we had to pivot quickly for the market demands. And even though we have something which is working very well, we have to readapt that whole thing, re-engineer the whole process to map into what the customer requires now. We have to be customer centric. We have to be market centric. So our product fit, which was made earlier, may not be the right product fit today. Okay, so we had to re-engineer the whole thing and make it different. So once we pivoted into the digital space, now comes the lure of what we say is, oh, now suddenly you get the excitement that I can just reach anywhere in the world. I can do lots of things. And people talk about scalability. Then you talk about lots of things can happen in a large scale. But one of the big problems with scalability is it magnifies or amplifies the strengths and the weaknesses.
Mm.
Okay, if your core offering is not good enough, okay, and if there are going to be some lacuna in the core offering, suddenly it gets magnified as soon as you scale. And the moment you scale, then it's going to be a disaster. So we have been very careful in actually trying to when we are going scaling, we have made timelines and milestones to ensure that we had a great product fit earlier. Now we re-engineered the entire product fit completely into the different domain, which we never imagined would happen. It was completely out of the blue for us. So we had to re-engineer the whole ecosystem that we were working in, get retrained and re-energized into this whole new space, and then find the right product mix. And once we are good with the product mix, only then we want to scale. It was the lure for me to scale was humongous. Like I myself wanted to do it because it was such an exciting phase, try to get there. And then I had to hold myself back and say, do I have everything right now before I just take that scalability thing there? And then once you reach that point where of inflection, the inflection point where you think that you can really do it at that time, and the market and the customer centric approach has already been satisfied, then I can go for the next step. So like in an entrepreneur, like you said, so if you don't adapt and believe it, if we had stayed the old way, which I've seen a lot of my contemporaries in the same industry, I've seen a lot of people resisted that,
Mm.
and they didn't change. And
True.
today they're non-existent. They're gone. They're gone from the market. And there are very few people in this space now. I suddenly find the space empty now. Okay, and I find it, and they have lost out a huge amount of time in actually bringing this together. So it's about timing. It's about that intuition to say that I need to make that pivot, getting some right mentorship at that time, getting a good market understanding from what the market wants. And if the market is demanding something and we are resisting that and getting into another space, we are never going to grow. So it's about innovation every day, making changes every day, and trying to bring a market fit which will fit. And what I fits today is not going to fit tomorrow. And getting that understanding as an entrepreneur to say that this is an ongoing process. It's not going to be something which is like a status quo that you have reached there and then you've reached everywhere. And every company can be today. If you look at AI coming in today, okay, it's going to disrupt the industry. Okay, not that people talking about job loss and this, but it disrupts industries. So something is going to come in our way to which will disrupt. And if you're not ready for it, and if you're going to be just stuck in your old ways, well, then entrepreneurship is not the right path for somebody in that way. So you got to be adaptable. You got to be resilient to change. You got to be open to getting feedback. Okay, many people are resistant to feedback. If somebody gives me a bad feedback, let's say of something, the moment human nature is to start to say, oh, this guy is not a good guy, I don't want to, I don't want to be with him and things like that. But instead of looking at it like uh, it might be bad criticism, it may be whatever the feedback is, you got to take it in the right spirit.
Correct.
uh, Take it in, and even if it hurts your gut, it's fine. Take it in and actually delve on it, work on it to see whether there is value in what they said. And more often than not, there will be value in what they've given a feedback. And once you take that and start to work on it, then you start to realize the value of the wealth of knowledge and the gold that can come out of that one feedback can make a difference. So I was initially very resistant to feedback. Okay. And that is a change I had to make. So today I'm open to any kind of feedback that people give me. I just make a note of it, and then I don't take it on a personal level. Okay, I make sure that it's just fine.
Thought.
It's a thought. I get it in, put it in one place, and then I sit on it, delve on it for some time, and then start to see the value of it. And then once I really see a value in it, I go back to the person and thank them for that advice that they've given. It makes a
big
huge
change.
difference.
Yeah. Big
Because
shift.
One more question here, Anand. So, in this concept of becoming humble and accepting feedback from everybody, right? Everybody starts giving their own version of whatever they've done. And I am a firm believer that you take advice from people who live the life you want to live.
absolutely.
Otherwise, there is no point. No, no, like everybody are old, nobody is experienced. Okay, so just because
Advice
they
is
have
free.
advice is free, and they come and they will, just because somebody's got gray hair doesn't mean they are eligible to advice.
Absolutely.
Be it even your parents.
I totally agree with you on that. That's why I said when we talk of youngsters, when we are going to mentor, youngsters come with some phenomenally great ideas. And sometimes, meaning, I'm a senior citizen. Okay. Okay. That's the way I would put it. I'm a senior citizen. Still haven't got my
61.
senior citizen card or whatever. I have got it. But the fact is, people of my generation are very, very resistant to feedback, very resistant to change, very resistant to any kind of transition towards digital and space. And most people at my age would be thinking, why should I delve into something new?
No,
Absolutely.
You made your day, you made your stuff, enjoy it and live your life. But then there is that craving of doing something more, which keeps us going. That's what a true entrepreneur is, all the time wanting to do something different. And if I at my age can get into something new, into a new space completely, okay, from an analog to digital, what I would the way I'm putting it is probably not the right way, but eventually you understand that getting into a completely different domain, uh, and I can adapt and do it, anybody can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the way I would put it. So be ready for change, because that's the constant in the world. Things are going to change, whether we like it or not. It's going to change, and the way things are changing now is
Rate
changing
is
much
very high.
faster
Yeah.
compared to what used to happen. Earlier days, it was so slow, but today, in a 6-month window, things are completely different. The ecosystem around you is different. So we have to adapt. And that, I think, is a integral part of entrepreneurship.
Also, attention span. I think, engagement and attention. Today, we are in the social media era. 20 seconds scrolling, 10 seconds, something doesn't get captured. So, yeah, adaptability is key.
So one more question here. You said adaptability and resilience are a part of entrepreneurship. Actually, another word in that question, adversity. All these three are a part of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
And I also wanted to understand the resilience and staying, not giving up. As much as it is glorified, how would you say what is being resilient versus what is being obnoxious or stupid?
Yeah, that, I think, again, there's a good that's a good question, actually, because when we talk of resilience, okay, I will just stick at it and know and keep doing what I'm doing, is not the right way to look at it. Okay, so that's where the feedback portion comes in. So most people who are just resilient and stubborn and they're just doing what they're doing and they think what they're doing is right, more often than not end up in the graveyard. Okay, so that's the way I would put it. So the when I talk of resilience, I'm talking about, there has to be a point where you're going to actually call it a day and pivot changes. Okay, you cannot just be, just because I'm resilient and I'm not going to give up, I'm perseverant on everything that I'm just going to persevere no matter what happens. Well, somebody might write a story about you as to how you struggled in your life and things like that, but then in reality,
Doesn't achieve anything.
it doesn't achieve anything. So you got to really be open to change. And resilient is, yes, you have that ability to be resilient, but then not in a stubborn way, in a way that you're looking at what is the market requirement, what are there is so many things that you need to look at. All the platters it should ultimately fit the market, isn't it? Otherwise, what am I doing? Ultimately, at the end of the day, it should solve a real world problem. That's the way I would say.
Yeah.
See, when a new young guys come in with a new idea, my first question to them would be very simple. I'll ask them, what real world problem does it solve?
Right.
Okay, if there is no real world problem that it solves, and it's some imaginary stuff, end of the day it will not see light and it will be a failure. We got to find a market fit for a real world problem. Okay, and most people don't find a real world problem, or they try to follow something that somebody else has done and they try to re-engineer it to make something different. But if you're solving a real world problem, you're in the right space. Then being resilient is fine.
Richard, do you help me, add a couple of points? I mean, by being so, when you say resilience, right, you should be resilient to become an entrepreneur, but not fall in love with the idea that you've started.
No,
That is where pivoting
yeah.
kind of comes in, is what I.
No, agreed. And I think just to pick up what Anand said and what I mentioned before is, not giving up or resilience. You have to have a vision and with a defined course. Let's say we're running a 100-meter race.
Timeline.
You run a 200-meter race, you finish your 100 meters and you're still running around the track. You're judged only on your 100 meters, right? Some people, have that josh of saying, I want to run 800 meters. Define your path. Like I like what he said, vision 2028. He wants to 10 million, 1 million,
1 million.
1 million lives he wants to touch. Fantastic vision. So you have a vision, you define it. Now, 2028, he may say, okay, you know what, we've not reached a million, which I know he will, but I'm saying maybe he'll say 1 month. By that point, you re strategize, you revision. You can't keep on failing, and then not giving up, so you have to define the course. And then that's when resilience will automatically come into play.
At every failure, you don't give up, but you re-strategize, pivot
Correct.
if necessary,
Absolutely.
Pivot if necessary.
and keep moving forward.
Adaptability.
Not like failure and resistance or resilience doesn't mean that you try the same thing again for one more year and see how big you can fail.
Agreed.
The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results.
I've used that in a speech once. Agreed. Beautiful. Yeah.
I'll give an, I think, academic, answer for this one. So research based, there is a structure to it. They say bring in objectivity. Do I really need to continue with this? Does it add value? So once you bring in that objectivity and the rationality part of it, bounded rationality as to saying, if I'm going to do this for 3 years, does it make sense? Does it add value? And I think that also answers, Gautam, your question of taking feedback and who should give and which feedback to work on and to ignore, so and so forth. So once you have that value creation framework in mind and whether something adds value or doesn't add value. As long as it adds value, be it short term or long term, this is worth doing it. If it doesn't add value and it's just for the sake of it, because it makes me feel good and I want to do it, there's a term called strategic inertia also with larger firms. Continuing to do something even if the feedback is not positive, simply because this is the way people are doing it, and there are motives and reasons for people to continue to do that, versus being objective and saying that also the timeline that people put in for experiments. In entrepreneurship, they say you define the you experiment, but you define how much you are going to spend and how long.
Correct.
Once you define that, I'm going to spend, like, say, a digital marketing company. I'll spend 5 lakhs in organic boosting, and I'll do it for 3 months. Once you're out of 5 lakhs, your experimentation window is over. Or once you're out of you're done with 3 months, that is the time when you should stop and objectively reflect. Did it
Correct.
work? It did not work. Take a pause, focus on action, come back, second budget. So the element of objectivity can come in, as I think Richard rightly said, is once you put a timeline. Be it 3 years, be it 30 years, 3 months, 3 hours, doesn't matter. But let it be objective,
Defined.
So
with respect to money, with respect to timeline.
in a research project, curious to understand, in a research project, who decides that the project needs to continue or it needs to be culled?
Excellent. Now, in PhD programs, I think by and large now the research scholars have greater flexibility to decide on the topic and also how long it should continue. Although there are guidelines from the universities with respect to minimum and maximum time. Now that's a good thing about how research happens now. It's not like typical UG or PG program that has to finish in 4 years or 2 years. PhD can it should at least it should research for minimum 3, and it can go up to, I believe, 5 or 7. So there's a window. But what it means is max is 7.
Beyond
It's
7
not,
and
but there's a fair window of the flexibilities of 4 years. That also needs to be understood, because it can't be forever. You need to complete something, deliver it to market. Imagine like your go to market. Unless you go back to market, let it be minimum viable product. But you will have to go back to your customers and give them something, show them something, let them use it and try it. Instead of saying I'll build something and I'll come back to you someday. That day has to come in. Your network and your customer is not going to wait forever. Right? Whether you go back to them in 3 months or 9 months is okay. But once you commit to 9 months, you'll have to deliver it within 9, to whatever extent it is. And have the courage and I think honesty to say that, okay, we could do only so much. Right? Give us 3 more months, we'll come back to you with a better version of it. But if you don't go back to them with anything in a defined, stipulated time, who is going to trust you? I think same with students. For parents to trust them, I believe no matter what, they would want to see something that is demonstrable, that is visible. And if there is money that comes in bit early, no matter the amount doesn't matter, but some amount has to come in for parents to believe that this is worth doing it.
Yeah.
And my kid, if pursues this, will do better in life. If it is only dream after dream, dream after dream, vision after vision, difficult to trust.
Yeah.
Because they have a different role to play. They're like your board in a company, right? They have to worry about numbers. It's their job. And allow for that creativity and innovation, but only to a certain extent. That is the role of research guide,
got
to look at timelines and to make sure that you're able to deliver something, because research also requires funding. Even if it is a self-funded project and student decides to research on something for, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, there is what do I say, there's a non-monetary cost also attached to it, right? More you spend time on it, that's an investment that needs to be considered. So it can't be endless. About real world problem solving, so we have started this new initiative in the university called Contemporary Curriculum Pedagogy and Practice. What it simply means is we are encouraging students right from the first semester, to be very precise, of all our programs, UG and PG, not just in engineering but all our domains, including social sciences, law, and pharmacy, to look at real world projects. So teachers are encouraged and in a way insisted and forced to give real world problems rather than hypothetical and imaginary.
Okay,
So
so
if
that's
you have to
great.
say develop a library management system, you better say develop IT management or develop a system for library that is close by, and give a specific name of the library, because students can visit it, contextualize it, rather than library management system for any library. So the
Yeah.
concept of library is itself imaginary, then the solution is also imaginary, and you don't know where to apply that.
Got it.
If you have to say, let's say, accounting system for a restaurant, you better say accounting system for so and so restaurant at so and so location, which means students are expected to visit it formally, informally, see the place, get some data to the extent possible, and put it in the context. I think that is a better way to bring in application orientation, because then you're working in the context. You need ideation, but again, ideate within the zone. Otherwise, it is too random, and you don't know what to do with all those 150 and 20 ideas. Like these days, projects are common in most of the courses, but students take up so many projects, and if nothing is fructified, then what is the use? It may help in the long run, but you also need something short term, something that you can go back to and say, okay,
Correct.
this is what I've built for you. Take a look at it. I'm sure some people will be ready to take a look at it, and they might fund your next phase of the project and say that, okay, why don't you build an app based on this? What is the cost? And person says, okay, it will take 50K. They'll say, I'll give you maybe 25K. Build it. You have your first project and money coming in,
Absolutely, absolutely. I,
and
I,
the
I
real world validation of what you're building. So we say either industry led project through our centers of excellences that we have with different industry partners. That's a real world project given by a particular industry partner and mentored by the industry professional along with teacher. That's difficult to come by for like thousands of students, because you need so many companies and so many partners and also so many commitments there. If not industry led, let it be industry focused. So we encourage students to use, faculty and students to use names of specific companies, names of specific products, specific locations while designing those assignments and projects,
Real world.
and
Okay.
try and get real data, real insights to the extent possible as you build it in any phase. Some people are not ready to give time in the beginning, honestly, but once you build something and tell them this is what I've built for you based on my understanding without talking to you, would you like to give me feedback so that I can improvise it further at no cost?
True, and that is very very true. And industry focused projects means they have a real tangible value. And also one more thing to defining a stop loss, right? It's not necessarily the idea is bad, but the idea and the person could be a misfit,
Right.
Correct.
Correct.
because that idea may not be for you, because the somebody else made some money in real estate doesn't mean everybody is going to make that money in real
Yeah. Yeah.
estate.
Agreed.
So that is something that I understand, and wanted to kind of throw the floor open for students to kind of understand it. So there is a say, I believe that all the money you want is in somebody else's pocket today,
Yes.
and if they have to take that money and give it to you, that means you have to demonstrate some value for them, which they are okay to part that money with you so that they will get that value. So that is what it is. So for students especially who are in colleges, who are working on academic projects and all of that, how can that be turned into a company and eventually into entrepreneurship? What are your thoughts around that?
Anand, start.
Okay. First, there are many points that I probably can say on this.
Anybody can feel free to jump
Yeah.
in as well.
So it's like the first step is as quickly, they have great ideas. People have ideas. Okay. You need to validate that idea as quickly as possible. Okay.
Right.
Which is by conducting market surveys. Okay. Find out whether there is a minimum viable product, like he said, whether the product itself is a good fit first. Just because it's good in my mind does not mean the market wants it. So I must be prepared to go out and market surveys. When I first started my in the healthcare, I remember going out on the streets, holding survey sheets, talking to people about health, and trying to find out whether what is it that I can do which will help. And it was like a very very terrible experience to do that. Okay, it took a lot of courage to do that, because a lot of people don't even look at you.
Right.
No matter who you are, I don't want to talk to you, kind of thing. And So they got to validate the product. So today there are great market research agencies, market research material available in the market. You can find different verticals. You can find out the growth of the that particular vertical. What is the CAGR growth for that particular vertical? What is there? Whether it's you got to look at it and then look at competitors in that space. You need to do that first market fit first. That's very important. A great idea is good, but then you also need to do a validation of that product or the idea, that whether it's there. You got to do that first before you do that. The second thing that I think they need to do is, the most important thing I think, is to build a good network around them, because no entrepreneur can build everything on their own. So they have to get into networking with the right kind of people around them. They need to find people who they believe are the kind of people who will give them the right ideas. Okay, people that they want to be, kind of thing. Try to get into those circles. Okay, of entrepreneurs. Be around people who are there. Find a mentor.
Yeah, very
ASAP.
important.
Find a mentor, maybe from the industry. And when I talk of industry, I just probably wanted to add a bit on what he was talking about, industry to education kind of a thing. Uh, if you look at our vision of 1 million transformations by 2028, that's 4 years from now,
Right.
which we have to get. If we have to get that, I cannot get it with my team of 60 people today. Okay, I need 1,000 people in my kitty. Okay, and that's our vision, to have 1,000 people strong organization that we are building towards and doing that. Now when I talk of that, I need to equip them. I need to make that happen. So right now I am in talk with some many universities that I'm speaking right now. How can I have a lateral entry for people to come in? Okay, if people are in the industry, like, we need to look at kind of things like that. Universities need to look at possibility of bringing, let's say somebody has been in the industry but they are not qualified to be there, let's say, but they
Mm.
have knowledge. Okay, how can we bring a lateral entry to them into the industry, allow them to graduate outside of that and come out, so that they are qualified enough to offer the services that they want to offer. The reason I am saying that is, in healthcare there are lots of mandates which are there. I cannot just mandate and say things just because I feel like it.
Yeah,
Okay,
licenses,
there are
certifications, the
certifications.
validations.
How do they get that entry? So to match with that vision, working here the same way, the entrepreneur who wants to come out from college and wants to do, it's important to network and find the right things. Okay, and find the right mentor around them, to build that knowledge base, and then develop those business acumen skills. If they have to really understand financial management, if they have to understand marketing, operations, these are all areas which people are not taught in colleges.
Yeah,
Okay, they are taught technical skills, they are taught in various other things, but when it comes to actually implementing it, people may fail. It may be a fantastic idea, but then it fails because of these areas. So then they have to network with the right kind of people. If I don't have that skill, I'd rather build a team with somebody with that skill. So I need to find such people around me, so with the right mindset. So unless I put myself in that environment, I can't find such people. So quickly network with as many industry partners as possible. To do that, find the right market fit, find the right people to work with, find skill sets that you're not good at. Instead of wasting time to learn everything, find people with that skill.
correct.
Okay, and bring them into your team.
Very useful.
Yeah,
And if you can bring that, then it becomes very good to start to do. And then obviously, learn how to pitch your idea. It's important to pitch. Even if you fail, it's a miserable pitch, but make a pitch to somebody. Okay, for funding, ask for something. Maybe it's even to your friends who have got some money. Pitch. Learn to pitch, because when you start to learn to pitch, you'll make a better pitch next time. Okay, so the question is, don't be shy and just stay there. Even if somebody laughs at you, it's okay. Go
doesn't
and
matter.
pitch your idea, make a pitch deck, go out and do it.
Yeah,
Experience what happens before you really get to the right people. And when you develop that sort of a process flow within you, your confidence builds up. Okay, and then thereby you'll find somebody. You look at many success stories, they have pitched and pitched and pitched and pitched for so many years, and to thousands of people, and suddenly one thing clicks, and then boy, they just taken off.
yeah,
So many stories like that we read. So read a lot of books. Okay, read autobiographies of people. That will give you an idea as to understand many of the skill sets and the mindset that is required. Okay,
yeah,
and if you can find a good mentor, I think that will be the icing of the cake.
yeah.
Finding a mentor is, I think, I don't know. It's probably the best.
Is key to any success. And I mean, from personal experience, I think absolutely agree with what Anand said. But one thing that's really helped me is doing what I love, right? Because as you embark on any journey, you must love what you do. And even if you're solving a problem, you must, or creating a product, you must love doing it. Like you rightly pointed out, just because somebody has been successful in something else, acha, I also want to do that, doesn't necessarily work. You need to really love what you do. And I'm a firm believer in mentorship, because all throughout my life, whatever 30 plus years that I've been doing business, I've always found mentors who have helped me navigate so many hurdles, so many problems. So mentorship is just not about helping you crack a VC or helping you crack a pitch. It could be simple day to day how you live your life. Sometimes my mentors have not even helped me in my business, but they've helped me as an individual, which has a direct ramification on business. So I'm a firm believer in finding the right mentor. And of course, you got to love what you do, otherwise it's very hard to be successful.
Very true. Actually, mentors are like Google Maps for you. At least you get to the shortest way. They know
Correct.
where there is a traffic jam, what is the detour you got to take, and all of that. And very true. And given the ecosystem currently in India, right? I believe that there is not a lot of structure around mentorship and all of that, and students don't get access to it. For those kind of students, what I would suggest is that if you like somebody's thought process, then you start following them digitally. You will get like good amount of
Absolutely.
quality time with them,
100%.
and then eventually, who knows, you might share the table with them.
Yeah, and reach out. One of the things that I've realized, I'm mentoring a few people, absolutely right. They've been following digitally, but nothing wrong in writing. Like Anand said, let's like pitching, right? You will fail. You can write an email, say, hey, Anand or Richard, Anmol or Gautam, whoever, you know, can we spend some time? Can I have a coffee with you? Can I learn something from you? And I might say yes, I might say no. Nothing wrong in trying. Right? That's the mistake kids make today. They don't want to take that effort because they want to feel good. Are if he says no, if she says no, try, try till you do. But it's like you rightly said, it's very important to find the right person to guide you, who's
I
in your ecosystem.
recently I came across very interesting insight, not new to us as in India, but even I had lost perspective on this. So it read something like this: good mentors find good mentees. So in the process of asking and presenting and suggesting, making appeals, what happens is you reach out to so many people. And good mentors and the ones with money or experience or any of the powers that are essential for one to grow, those people are also very curious and careful. They have a lot more filters because they understand value of their time
Correct.
better than anybody else. So they're going to be very mindful and careful in their selection. So unless such candidates feature in their list, top 3, top 5, those people will never open their cards and say that let's talk for 10 minutes, isn't it? So what, and this is how our Guru Shishya Parampara has been, that the best gurus will find the best Shishyas.
Yeah.
Shishyas were always interested, but gurus define that these are my top 3 in the batch, maybe top 2, and this is the
Yes.
one who to whom I will lend my name.
Yeah.
And only this person will have an authority to go out and say that I learned from this fellow. Rest all is part of Gurukul, which means that I think element of asking, extending the network, showing what you're worthy of matters a lot. One more point on I think projects to businesses is there's this interesting framework called value proposition canvas, which talks about three things rather. One is jobs that one should do for customer, tasks that you need to take care of, like ThinkFit for example, or your firm. What your product and company is supposed to do for a customer, that's a routine list, the mandatory minimum thing. Other two are important. One talks about painkillers, identifying pain points and addressing pain points, because painkillers kind of give immediate relief and also give you that initial traction because customers are up for it, they're in pain and they need it badly. The third one is critical for long term: vitamin. looking at the possible gains of a customer so that you build a long term relationship and you retain a customer. uh, in a way, I think I see some students focused more on the gain creators and a long term picture, and hoping that somebody will put in money so that I can change the future, change the world, and so on and so forth. But there's nothing to see in the short run. That's a problem. And people don't say yes early. And there is a group of students, there's another segment that is only addressing the immediate pains and forgets the bigger picture. They will have business in the short run, but they are going to struggle just because they won't find reason for people to come back and pay in the long run. Anybody who combines these three stands a better chance. You're taking care of the routine mandatory stuff, so you're good to go. Two, you look at pain points so that you have early acceptance, money starts flowing in, you can use it to create more gains. And gain creators is your bigger picture. That's also, I think, some seasoned entrepreneurs talk about two engines for the business. One that gives you adequate fuel, and the other one is you use it for the long term planning. At least the 20% has to be futuristic. Majority is still, like Microsoft as an example, the majority of revenue still comes from the the routine products that they have. They have futuristic products. Same is for Amazon, same is for Google, same is applicable for a lot of other products. That's the bigger picture part of it. Starting with immediate pain relievers so that you have acceptance, and then looking at gain creators. That's where you create solutions for long term.
Very, very totally agreed. And that's where the mentorship part that you guys mentioned will be very, very essential, because kind of looking at it, right? So initially I looked up to my dad, and I used to take, and then at one point I felt I graduated out of his school. There is no more, like,
Yeah.
if I talk to him, it is a repeat on mode. I need to get to the next level. I need to get bigger than my dad. So then is when I couldn't find anybody close and relevant that I could rely on. I used to take, follow certain people online, and I kind of, kept following them, listening to wherever they talk, whatever they talk, you know, picked up key points. And then eventually now I've gotten a mentor for my own, industry. And then this is a person, he can, literally pick up the phone and call somebody and be like, hey, this is the person, you want to talk to him, and then the connection is established, the credibility is there, and then you are like, you're, a hot knife slitting through butter. You're like, you're straight to the decision maker. Now we're like, okay, where did I not find? Maybe I was preparing myself for this mentor all through these years. Maybe if I'd met him a couple of years before, he might be like, okay, this guy is not fit enough or something like that. That's where the mentorship part comes in. And I also believe that, like, I don't listen to anybody who says save your way to riches. The moment somebody says save money, I don't I cannot align to any of their thoughts. It's not that I'm against saving money.
Correct.
The point is, you should have a life and then save above it. Or you should first, in the first place, there is a limit to how much you can save. There is no limit to how much you can earn. If a if you need 50,000 to survive, then you first make that 50,000 before thinking how I can reduce my expenses and save and all of that. So I don't listen to anybody who says go stay in like this, live on your shoestring budget, save your way through. Then at 45, 50, you'll be 45, 50, fine boss, आज का क्या है. So that is my thing. And I believe, in choosing mentors, do you guys also think that you should, at a value wise, align with them?
Absolutely.
100%. 100%.
Yes.
So what are the key values then somebody should look for in that person? Because when I look at it, the parameters are like grit, not giving up, and then keeping at it and building strong networks. Because like I like this guy Naval Ravikant, but he says
Yeah.
networking is overrated. Okay, so that means that I can take a few thoughts from him, but I cannot have him as an online mentor or something, because if he thinks, because networking is probably not for him, so that is his viewpoint. So I cannot take everything that he says. There are people like Donald Trump who come through only via networking.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's what
I think
something I
it's
want.
subjective, and
Very
for me at
subjective.
least personally, and it could be different for everybody else. So I have two mentors, and both are different skill sets. One helps me with financial advice, investment advice, so on and so forth, and the other gentleman helps me with life skills, so to speak. Right. So not necessarily you need to find one person who can fulfill everything that you may require, right? So I think for me, finding a right mentor is subjective based on what you need, because that's what I think. And I think it's also important that like Anmol rightly pointed out, they need to value you as a mentee, right? It has to be a two-way relationship. It's just not, because at some point, then if it's not a little bit of give and take, that spark will fizzle out.
If you're then you become a parasite, not a
Correct.
mentee.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and if a mentor starts to judge you, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
If they're a sounding board and if they are able to redirect your thoughts in a right direction, then it's fine. But if they start to judge you based on what you say, and if it doesn't align with their thoughts, then they're not the right people for you.
Agreed.
At some point in time, you will break away from that for sure.
They are not right people for mentorship only.
Yeah.
They should not be mentoring anyone.
So
Actually.
many people who actually claim to be mentors who are there, eventually, they have their own fixed thought process. Okay, they are already fixed in their thoughts. And it's surprising to see how these people have become life skill coaches, and all these kind of coaches they have become. But
I
when you
can
talk
talk
to
about
them,
it, but separately.
yeah, but they're all like such a fixed boundary they have within themselves. So anything that comes outside of that is something beyond their purview. If somebody comes with a radical thought, they're just unable to accept it, and they try to put people back on their track, thinking bring them back between boundaries. So you got to be, like you said, the value has to match with the person. Otherwise, if they don't, well,
Yeah.
find somebody else.
Totally got
Yeah.
it. I'm a firm believer, because at certain times when my thought process doesn't get along with them, right? Then what happens is they are trying to get. What happens is, a lot of mentors, they want to achieve their dreams through you. They want you to be a smaller version of them. If it happens, fantastic. But if you're not that version, right?
Yeah.
They
Then
try to superimpose, like what parents
Right.
do generally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Parents are so good that they will do anything for their children except letting them be themselves. So
Correct.
that is
Yeah.
Gautam, I think for me, what is key here is I prefer to work with undisclosed and unclaimed mentors.
okay.
I would find a person, because if it's a primary line of business, as Anand indirectly
Not
said,
a coach.
mentoring,
Okay.
coaching, mentoring is a primary line of business. I would take that with a lot of caution, to be very honest. I would, and it's generally more beneficial to talk to somebody who is very busy with the routine, not very keen in mentoring and guidance, because those people are to the point. Also, they have limited time, so they respect your time and they respect the time like anything. And the conversations are shorter, plus they're more precise and pointed. Uh, on the go matters, such people are much better on tactical and operational level. For the bigger picture, you need someone who has seen, who has been there, done that, but that needs to be validated a bit. Unless that's there, then it is just preaching, which is not going to help much, because they haven't seen it, they haven't witnessed it, they don't have access to it, isn't it? They haven't experienced it, so they'll run out of fuel at some point in time. But for bigger picture, you need someone who can give time. For on the go, someone who is very busy and occupied and not very keen, because such people are more honest, is what I
Agreed.
assume it to be.
Yeah.
And it has worked for me over the last 17 years.
I
One in
tot-
this category and other one for the bigger picture.
I totally get it, because if somebody has not made it, they are not. They should not be advising in the first place. So if some, they should not be advising in the first place. So they should be rich. They should be financially free. They should be successful. Only then they can give the
But
right
the choices
advice.
are difficult
The
for
choices are
students.
difficult.
This is difficult for us. We can imagine how difficult it must
Yeah.
be for
Yeah.
students to make the choices about mentors and people and choosing between the options.
Like if
Just
you
too
have
much.
a choice between choosing Virat Kohli and your father, and you are to take advice on cricket, you would go to Virat Kohli, although your
100%.
father has the best thing in. So
100%.
that has to be very objective. If
On
I,
life matters, and
yes.
then the culture fit and the purpose and all other things, it has to be
No, no,
father.
so
But
there
on
But
was
then the
cricket,
next question would be, let's say,
next.
between a Dhoni or a Virat Kohli or let's say Rohit Sharma, who
That
do you
makes it
choose?
tough.
no, that's a nice problem to have, right?
Yeah.
That's a nice problem to have. If they are spoiled for choices and you have those three, then it's a great problem to have. The problem is,
Got it.
somebody playing badminton is trying to advise you on how to play cricket.
No,
That is
that's
when
I'll try to meet all three.
Yeah.
opportunistic, and being a sales guy.
So
That's dangerous.
so and especially, converting academic ideas into business opportunities, right? The way I have seen is the first company I built, I built the product, then went to the market. Then they said, boss, this is not something that we are looking for. And I'm like, I burnt all my money, all my savings, and now, like, here I am. Then I had to switch on to a services business, and then from services again come back to a product.
Product
So
business.
that is how it has been. So how I see it is, for any student who's starting out, probably a demo, show it to you. Hey, this something that you
Yeah.
like, you will pay for? Yeah. Then I come back to you with a prototype. After the prototype is done, you're still interested, then I take advice from 5 6 people, and they become my first customers, and then I sell it,
Yeah.
and then that's when I build it. You never
Absolutely.
Bill Gates built it after selling it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anybody, and product people aajkal, they fall in love with the product and forget that there is a business behind the product.
No, market survey followed by proof of concept, all those are standard business practices, right?
If you take
Yeah.
Apple, for example, when they came in, everybody spoke only of iPhone and whatnot. Today, if you see, it's really scaled up so well. If you talk about their entire business, the way they have scaled towards subscription
Yeah.
and products where you have to spend money on a continuous basis, how they've moved into that space, people still don't even know that they have moved into that space.
Yeah.
And they've just pivoted so beautifully into an area where everybody, a wallet share of their pocket is going into them without even knowing that they're giving it, and they're giving it willingly. How
Correct.
beautifully they have pivoted into another domain vertical. Apart from selling a hardware, they are selling so many services today,
Correct.
and which wasn't the case earlier.
The vision was there, for App Store was there in the
Yes.
first
Yeah.
iPhone. The vision was there, but yeah, if you look at it, 2007 to today, 17 years. So 17 years is is probably like, from a point there was no smartphone to a point there is no life without a smartphone.
Smartphone.
You've seen that entire
The
transition
transition,
happen
yeah.
right in front of you, right? Totally, totally got
Yeah,
it.
because their revenue stream from App Store, they don't even have to talk about it.
They don't
They
talk
won't talk
about it.
about it at all.
It's there in the
Hmm.
balance sheet very
It
quietly.
is such a amazing way they have pivoted and brought in, and the whole industry has followed them. If you look at
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, removing the headphone jack.
yeah. If you talk about, everybody now is a subscription. Microsoft, you buy subscription model now for your licenses. You don't buy,
They don't give you a
product like how you
charger
used
Yeah.
to buy
anymore.
earlier.
So
Don't give a charging block in saying that it is eco-friendly, reducing the packaging size,
Yeah.
and removing the home button, and then everybody followed suit.
yeah.
And I remember, very early on, that in mobile phones, you don't replace mobile phones. When the battery bulges, you replace the battery. They kind of sealed it and then closed it once for all.
Once for all.
No,
And
it's phenomenal. I mean, it's just amazing the way they've changed how the revenue model
They
works.
removed the 3.5 jack for the headphones. Now
Yeah,
nobody
gone.
has it today.
Gone.
Everybody removed it after that.
I think one of the again, I would talk about challenges more from the student side is with minimum viable products and prototypes. Generally, the way schooling happens, and again, the blame is on us, education partial, and also parents and society at large. Is people are not used to seeing minimum viable products and prototypes. Not everybody respects that. And if students get feedback saying that, okay, no, this doesn't work, show me the final thing. Imagine for submission, student is to come back and say that, okay, this is what I've built and I'm still working on it. And normally assumption is teachers will say, why this is not completed, why you need more time. Haven't you understood, the guidelines? It is pretty clear. But, candidate is trying to verify and validate and improvise. But all of that, if is not understood, I think there is unintentional discouragement from trying to go back to a customer and say, okay, this is a minimum viable product, and that also needs to be pitched well. Else, it might sound like a finished product, and people assess you on that parameter. And there are other myths that students have. This is based on working very closely with students, is that it is my idea what people copy. I think that level of trust is necessary in some people, not everybody, but you need to trust somebody in the business. You choose that 1 out of 100, but you need to choose that one person with whom you're going to work. And business is all about partnerships. Be it vendor, be it customer, be it employee, investor, you'll have to trust somebody. You decide the best one for you. on your parameter, but you will have to make that choice one fine day. It's not that you keep it isolated forever, thinking that one fine day there will be a big blast and then everybody talks about it. That's
Ideas
rare.
ideas dime a dozen. You go on Bangalore, you can
Yeah.
pick ideas from the street and then
Right.
go home with a truck full of ideas.
Huh.
It's all about the execution in the team, because it's not about the ideas, but yeah, they have to be educated. And probably in terms of the research projects or the college projects they have talking, they should take something that is doable within
Doable.
that time frame. It
Correct.
should not take like a big project and then fail in doing that.
And smaller prints, smaller chunks, something that you can show now.
And good
Like
presentation
Anand
skills
said, there's a
can
bigger
get
picture
them
that
over
he
there.
has. He'll have to start somewhere, and I'm sure that's what they do.
Absolutely. Okay. I want to go into the final part of the discussion, which is decision dilemmas. There's like two decisions. You'll have to choose one between them. So both are good. You just pick one. Okay. You don't have to explain why you picked one. You have your own right. So what happens is
Logic.
no logic.
Yeah.
It's your prerogative.
Sure.
Who is there to question your prerogative? So I want to start with you, Richard. Okay. Focus on refining your product first or getting it to market quickly.
Go to market.
Small tight knit team or outsource key operations early on.
Own team.
Uh, Bootstrap the business or seek investors in early stages.
Seek investors in early stages.
Prioritize short term profits or long term market positioning.
Long term.
Expand locally first or aim international markets early.
Locally.
Okay, I'll go to Anand. Prioritize profitability or focus on acquiring customers early on.
Acquiring customers any day.
Freemium model or premium pricing for your core offerings.
Well, it depends on the business, because digital products can go to freemium and other things, but where you need a wide audience. But otherwise, premium. So a balance, I would say.
Okay. Perfect the product before launch or iterate based on customer feedback.
Well, you have to iterate the product, no doubt. But in our healthcare case,
You are giving me long answers.
No, no, no.
Anand.
I think perfect the product in my
Okay.
case.
So yeah, so we'll kill the charm.
Yeah.
Scale early or refine core offerings.
Refine core offerings.
Focus on organic growth or invest heavily in marketing early.
Organic growth.
Okay, Amol, should academia focus on theoretical knowledge or hands-on entrepreneurial skills?
Hands-on.
Developing critical thinkers or job-ready graduates.
Critical thinkers.
Okay, collaborate with the industry for curriculum development or focus on academic innovation.
Collaborations.
Create specialists for specific fields or well-rounded, generalists.
Well-rounded, but you need
Generalists.
some specialists.
Yeah. Okay.
In
So
short term, you need that.
yeah. Prepare students for local job markets or global opportunities.
Local.
Okay, got it. So now I wanted to come to the contributions part. We are doing this as a large initiative to kind of bridge the gap between academia and industry, so that they have a seamless transition. And with you guys being in the field for so long, wanted to understand what what you can do at your personal level, as you as an individual or as a company, for us to help bridge this gap further. Anand, I'll go with you first.
Definitely internships, mentoring, and that's something that I've already launched already now.
Uh-huh.
And taking on people, but predominantly in the healthcare space. That is a space that we want to be focused on,
Mhm.
because that's where I think we can add value.
Mhm.
Definitely interns, and picking people that we can mentor, who may eventually turn out to be entrepreneurs themselves. Doesn't matter, but we will mentor them and take them on from. So we are looking at partnerships with organizations where they have access to these kind of students. Maybe it's right from what I'm telling, from K-12. They need not be this one at a younger age. They haven't seen what the industry is about.
Any
So,
academic disciplines specifically? in
specifically,
healthcare?
we are looking at healthcare in terms of nutrition, diet. That's our core area of business. So we are looking at people, even at say if say in the 12th standard they're making a decision about a career. I think we as entrepreneurs could get together. Maybe that is a forum. I think, Gautam, we should look at that we all get together and we form a consortium kind of a thing, wherein we can actually give exposure about that industry to young people, young minds, I'm not talking about already mature minds, but young minds, because they can get an access to understand. Like you've been in the HR space, and your domain that you work in, data science and AI and other things. Just think about a 12 standard year old guy comes and understands the industry through you compared to reading about it. There's going to be a huge difference,
Absolutely.
and that would give them a vision to say that whether I really want to do it, I don't want to do it. Okay, they'll get a clear idea, and then if you were to give them an assignment which they can do, okay, and which might help you too in your work. Okay, so you give an assignment where the real world assignment that they work on, and they understand what you do to succeed. I think there can't be anything better than that. And that's an area that, what, we at ThinkFit want to contribute, and we want to partner with as many people as possible there to expand our reach, because that again ties in with our vision. A vision of 1,000 people cannot come by, just searching for people everywhere. We'll find that 1,000 people through programs like this.
Absolutely. We'll do that.
Yeah, I think what I can probably offer, definitely mentorship, uh, internship, and also workshops, career counseling, skill set understanding, because like I said, sometimes kids are, I can't say kids anymore, but, uh, young adults are still very confused about what direction to go, right, based on their skills. So I think doing workshops to understand what do they really want, what are their skills, doing there are specific programs for that. So yeah, so maybe that's something that I could help with.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, thank you both for
Thank
coming
you.
in and,
Thank you
honoring
for
me with
having
your
us.
Yeah,
presence.
thank you for having us, and
Thank you.
absolutely wonderful this panel has been.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
More.
It was
I'm
nice.
personally
great to get
proud
the
of.
academic side of it
Yeah.
and the industry side of it.
Fan-
Yes. That's where the confluence happens.
Yeah.
Thank you.